there's this book, right, that you wrote, and I think that was the first time you wrote a book. How
a lot
was
of
that
firsts.
journey? Yes, many firsts.
Yeah, many firsts. The first time writing a book for me, it's interesting because when I was little, I always wanted to write. I loved books. And for some reason, I didn't even consider the idea of writing a book. It was only when, before embarking on this journey to dance around the world, I met with a writer, one of the original Lonely Planet writers, who said to me, oh, this project would make a great book.
Oh, yeah.
I said, oh, really? He was like, you should write a book, just casually. And it was one of those moments where you've got the mirror in front of you and the person is mirroring back to you what you actually want. And I said to him, a book? Me? No, I can't. I'm not going to write a book. He's like, well, do you write? I was like, well, actually, most of my work is writing as a researcher. I write policy reports and policy briefs and articles. So, yeah, I don't know. And he's like, you can write a book. That was literally the sentence. So as I embarked on this journey, I started taking a lot of notes, actually on the Notes app on my phone. And I took a lot of videos. I took a lot of photos. I have a very visual memory. And the entire process, I'm not going to lie, took 4 years. So what are the characteristics of that? Time, effort, patience, perseverance, a lot of uncomfortable emotions, but also having that resilience to see something through. In a way, it was kind of the journey of learning to dance for the first time.
Yeah.
So yeah, over those 4 years, I wrote the first draft. I got an agent. I actually signed my book deal the week before COVID started.
Oh, wow.
But on the bright side, the whole editing process was during lockdown. So I was really locked down and editing away. And Finding Rhythm was published in March 2021. And actually, I'm very excited to share that it's being republished as paperback.
Wow.
In April 2025. And this time we don't have a lockdown, so we'll be able to celebrate it properly.
Wow, that's so nice to hear. Congratulations. And I saw where you were getting towards, like all these components that lead to this happy, fulfilled life. Writing a book, and I think that's also a challenge for many to really finish it, right? But you got yourself through. Do you think your happiness mindset, or just that you're so aware of what it takes to create a happy life, also keeps you kind of on track with that?
You mean with finishing tasks?
Yeah, so that you understand what it takes, all this patience and resilience, so that you do not get discouraged so easily, maybe.
Actually, yes, I'd never even thought about that. But when I look back I would categorize everything as a dream. It was my dream to work at the UN. It was my dream to go and learn how to dance around the world. It was a dream to publish a book. The first dream, to get my dream job at the UN, took 7 years. The journey dancing took a year, but it got me to beginner level in a lot of dance styles, but I'm still working my way through intermediate about 8 years later.
Yeah.
And I see this as a lifelong journey. What all these dreams have in common is they took a lot of perseverance, a lot of belief, a lot of patience. I'm not saying that I finish absolutely everything that I want to do, but the things that are really, when we really have a dream in our heart, we just have to take that first step.
Yeah.
It's the hardest part.
Yeah.
And then it's just consistent effort and practice and perseverance, and also being passionate about it. I think that's key.
And I think what comes to my mind here also is that courage, right? That first step you just mentioned, it's the hardest. And courage has the Latin word, or comes from, at its root, at the root of the word is the Latin word cor, which means heart, right?
Yes.
So for me, since I understood that, I mean, whenever I'm in a moment where it takes courage for me to take that next step or take that first step, I just tell myself, okay, it takes courage, but it's because your heart is in it somehow. So that's why it's necessary, right?
And that's the core element is that it comes from the heart. When we make these decisions from the heart, it's so powerful. What makes me very sad is many people not living the life that they truly want, as in they're living someone else's life. They're not living a life that's authentic based on their values, on their beliefs. And actually, this is something that in the book, The Top Regrets of the Dying, the number one regret is I wish I had lived a life that was true to myself. And that's something that I really strive for and advocate for, because I believe everyone deserves to live a life that is true to themselves.
Yeah. And how natural is that for you? I mean, in the meantime, or has it always felt natural? Did you ever feel like you were not really true, if you remember?
From what my mom tells me, I was always a bit eccentric, and I was always quite expressive. And I think that I never really fit in a box. Already growing up in the UK with French as my first language, I always knew I was different, and that I was going to do things a little bit differently. I would say that having said that, when it came to my teenage years, and I think that many people will resonate with this, which is basically the preparation for university and choosing what job you're going to do. Yeah. A lot of us went into I want a really good career. I'm going to become a doctor or a lawyer. Like for me, it was, I'm going to work for the UN. I'm going to put in all this effort. I'm going to be a policy analyst. Of course, little me had the dream of being a writer. And just wanted to dance and drive her ballet teacher crazy by doing everything differently. But then teenage me was like, no, I have to take life seriously. I want a really well-paying job so that I can build for a future and all that. I would say that I went to fulfill these societal roles and expectations in some ways. For instance, okay, now that once I have my job at the UN, I will finally be worthy, because I would have reached my goal and my dream. And the point is, I told myself I'm going to work for the UN by the time I'm 30. I joined at 27. I quit at 30.
Wow.
Because sometimes once your dream comes true, you realize, I mean, it was a dream for, I think it was 4 years. It was a dream until a certain point. And right now I work as a consultant for the UN, which is much better because it gives me that space to be myself. Yeah. I know I had to, and again, I think people will resonate with this, I had to let go of the attachment to the job title. Yeah. I had to find my worthiness and sense of self outside of my job. It didn't come from my accomplishments. It came from my values, from my interests. It's the typical question of, what do you want people to say about you at your funeral? What do you want on your gravestone? You don't want, I worked so hard, they earned this much money. No, you want people to remind you, to remember you as being kind, or having certain hobbies.
Yeah, very, very true.